Hi there, it's time to take two with Therese for Altenew, and today I've got a stamp highlight which is the Peaceful Reverie stamp set, and it does come with coordinating dies, and you can also get a mask stencil too. So this is a really unique set of stamps in the fact that the shading in these stamps is done with kind of a stippling effect, but you'll see that in a minute. First I just want to show you that because I'm going to be stamping out multiples, I'm using my Misty tool. These dies that coordinate with the stamp set, this one here that I'm showing you actually has the stem with the leaf actually included in the die. So when I laid my stamp out on the cardstock, I just made sure to face it with enough cardstock to be able to die cut the whole image out, and I just used the die to sort of give me a rough guide. I'm stamping out lots of images. I'm using two different shades here. I'm making some of my flowers yellow and some of them purple, and I'm going to alternate the centers of the flowers. There's quite a few little layers in this set, but by stamping out multiples, it doesn't matter that there are lots of layers because I'm not having to reline it up all the time. I can simply just pop the images back in my Misty tool and stamp out the next layer each time, and it's like production line. It goes very quickly. I've used the base color for the yellow is the Mango Smoothie, and for the purple was Hydrangea. Now I did try and get tricky here and flip my Misty around to fill the center, but I didn't think about the fact that my pieces of cardstock aren't exactly the same size. They're all the same width, and as long as I kept putting them in the bottom of my Misty, that was fine. But when I flipped it around, some of them worked fine and others didn't, so I learnt that lesson. To line up the leaf portion of the image, what I've done here is actually laid the die over top of my flower again, popped the stamp on top, picked up the stamp with the lid, removed the die, and then I can stamp out the stem. And the stem is the same as the flowers as well, and the leaves. They all have this wonderful stippling layered stamp set on them, and for the yellow flowers I use the Honey Drizzle as my next layer, and for the purple ones I use the Andromeda. Really pretty colors, and they go really well together too. I'm just going to run all of these images through my die cutting machine, and I'll be right back. Alright, I'm going to assemble my first card now. It's fairly simple. I'm using the stippled, the stippling shaded images for this one. I've covered the front of my card with some pale grey cardstock, and here I've got the Cozy Flannel cover die. I've simply cut that with some white cardstock, added some adhesive, and attaching that directly to the front of my card. Normally I like to pop these dies up, but I don't know. I thought I was going to pop all the flowers up, so it's going to make it a little bit more male friendly, but not really. It's still going to have lots of layers. I use both my tape runner and some, I've got this old foam tape that I'm using up. I'm trying to be very good and use up the stuff that I've got in my cupboard. So I've been layering this up. It's only 1 millimeter thick, so I've got like 3 layers on some of it, I think. Other than that, I'm just using the tape runner, and I've added a sentiment here. It's from the Flower Vine set, and I'm loving the tiny little sentiments in this set, and I'm using the obsidian black ink to stamp them out, and it gives such a great detail. One last thing on this card, I did add some black enamel dots, and they're from the Greenfields set. I came into the centers of the flowers and actually added the stamens, the stems of the stamens in with a black pencil, but you'll see a bit more of that here. So how I'm shaking it up with my second card is I'm actually going to be adding the shading with pencils. So here I've got the two images beside each other, so the one with the stippled shading, and I'm copying. This is allowing me to sort of see where the petals of the flower are and where the shading is as well. I accidentally die cut this image out, and I don't like colouring on die cuts. I could have added it to some copy paper, but what I did was just inserted it back into the die cut and added some tape on the back so that I could just shift my piece of cardstock around as I colour, because I like to move the cardstock so that I'm colouring on the correct angle for me, and it just makes it more comfortable. Some people don't need to do that, but I do. I'm actually adding the colour really lightly. I've chosen a yellow that's very similar to the yellow that I've stamped, but here I'm actually adding the shading. It's hard to tell, but this is a purple colour. It's called Violet, and these are Prismacolor pencils, and I just keep going back over and over, checking on the other image, just seeing where the shading is, and sort of learning the flow of the petals and blending the pencils with themselves. So I'll add just a little bit of the violet colour, come back in with the yellow, blend it out a bit really lightly, because I can keep adding multiple layers. As long as I don't fill the tooth of the paper, I can go on forever. No, probably not. Anyway, I did come into the center of the flower, and there was a couple of spots where my stamping was off. You know how, like I said, I didn't actually have it in my MISTI correctly. So this is where I came in and fixed those errors as well. I used the purple to colour in where the white bits were, some you'll never know, and then I also drew the stems of the stamens in with a black pencil. And I really like how these turned out. They're both really pretty. But I've also done another card using this particular flower. I didn't make a video on it, but it was with the release, and I stamped out these flower bases, and that was it. I never actually added any shading or any of the stipple stamping, and they look amazing. They're such a pretty shape, these flowers. Here I'm just showing you how I did the same kind of shading with the purple. I just thought it would be nice to share, and I'm not sure if you want to see both, but you got both today. But with the purple, I actually used the violet again, but this time I added the shading with black. But I did use it really lightly, and then near the end I did actually come in and add it a bit darker. And this worked really well on the purple base. So it's not always the colors that you think. Like, I wouldn't have actually thought to use the purple on the yellow, but I know that it's opposite on the color wheel, and that means something special. And it does go really well together, and black always sits well with purple for me. So if you're not sure, give it a try, have a practice one and see how you go. But these are really pretty. So this card here, what I did was got a piece of white, a panel of white cardstock cut to the same size as the front of my card. Added a sentiment here from the Fancy Greeting set. I did splatter some black ink splatters across the card as well. I'm a bit into the ink splatters at the moment. And then I actually adhere that to the front of my top fold card. Because the black ink splatters show through, I don't usually like to do them on the actual card base myself. And then I just made my little arrangement of flowers, same as before. And I did add some sequins. You'll find all the products that I've used today linked at the blog, and that can be found through the description below. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. There's always heaps here to see. Till next time, have a great day. Bye.